Hey everybody, my name is Daijah and welcome back to Daijah's book recommendations. Today I'm going to be doing recommendations for the spring/summer. Books for the spring and summer aren't necessarily my favorite, and usually for spring and summer I'm in the mood for a lot of thrillers, but I read mostly adult thrillers and even contemporary adult romance, but obviously I want to make sure that I keep these videos very much young adult, so I decided to put spring and summer together into one. And so I'm going to have three sections. I'm going to have kind of thrillers / horror that are all YA. Then I'm going to have contemporary, which is just like realistic fiction, and then the last section is going to be fantasy / sci-fis. So the first two books that I have are actually horror, and they're by the same author. The first one is Wilder Girls by Rory Powers, and in this book it's basically a gender-bend retelling of The Lord of the Flies, and I've actually never read The Lord of the Flies. And in this we basically follow this school of girls on this island that was put under quarantine because they're all having different kind of bodily issues. Some of them are like growing extra things, and it's just basically a bunch of mutations are occurring. So obviously this may not be the best if you're very triggered by the pandemic, but if you really like kind of apocalyptic pandemic type books, this one would definitely be good for you. And I would give this one a 4 out of 5 for summer / spring vibes, because it's definitely kind of with the island, it makes you feel like the heat in the summer, especially with all the bugs. It definitely reminded me of summer, but it's not like the most summery book that I have on this list. The next one that I have that's also by Rory Powers is called Burn Our Bodies Down, and this one I don't want to get too much into, but it's basically about this girl who is trying to figure out the lineage of her family, and there's a lot of cornfields in this book. If I get too much into it, it kind of ruins the experience of this book, but this one's 5 out of 5 for summer / spring vibes. It definitely takes place in the summer, and with the farms and the corn and things like that, it really felt summery, very much like old 80s kind of Stephen King esque vibes. The next book that I have is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and I actually read this years ago and it wasn't my favorite, but I think this is a really good recommendation for the summertime because it takes place during the summer. Basically we follow this family and they have a lot of tea, a lot of drama, and it's kind of like thriller-esque, but it's kind of more of like a thriller drama. And so it just says on the back, "We are Sinclairs, no one is needy, no one is wrong. We live at least in the summertime on a private island off the coast of Massachusetts. Perhaps that is all you need to know, except that some of us are liars." So obviously kind of has the mysterious element, and it definitely takes place in the summer. So I would give this one 5 out of 5 for summer vibes, because literally it's very much like in the pool by the ocean. It's very it definitely radiates summertime. So the next category that I have is contemporaries, which have contemporary romance and one hard-hitting contemporary, and I'm actually going to start off with that one, and that is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This actually doesn't take place during the summertime, it takes place during the school year, but something about this just really reminds me of summertimes, probably because in this there are riots for Black Lives Matter. And obviously there was a lot of Black Lives Matter protests back in June of 2020. There's obviously going on all the time, but after the death of George Floyd, there was a ton of protests, specifically in June of 2020. So it kind of, in my head, connects to that summertime feeling. And this one is so important. I would be surprised if you've never heard of this. There's actually a movie of this as well that's really good. And basically we follow our main character Star in this, and she sees her friend killed in front of her for no reason by a police officer. So she's kind of coming to terms with that and what that really means for her. And she also is kind of living this double life because she lives very much in the ghetto in Black culture, but then she goes to a really rich, completely white prep school, and her boyfriend's white. So it's kind of like her trying to discover what this all means for her and her identity. And I really love this book. I would give it 4 out of 5 for summertime vibes because obviously, like I said, it doesn't really take place in the spring or summer, but I feel like because of that George Floyd connection and those protests back in June of last year, this really kind of is reminiscent of summer to me. The next book that I have is Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch, and this is one of my favorite books, like my favorite YA books of all time, and I love this book so much. It is amazing. And in this we basically follow our main character, and her mom died of cancer, and her mom's dying wish was for her to go to Italy and for her to get to know her real dad, because she's never known her dad and he lives in Italy. And so she goes there for summer vacation, and there's actually a romance in here that's amazing as well, and I love this book so much. I would give it 5 out of 5 for summer vibes. She's on summer vacation in Italy, who doesn't want that? and there's so much discussion of food in here, and it's just so delicious. And I really like the combination that this had of like getting of like family relations also mixed with a little bit of a romance, and it was just really cute, fun time. And I really recommend this book if you're looking for something to quickly fly through while sitting on the side of the pool. The next book that I have is Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, and this is another one that takes place during the summer, and we follow our main character Sloane, and she is supposed to have one of the best summers of her entire life with her best friend, but then her best friend mysteriously disappears right before the summer is supposed to begin and leaves her a list of things to do, and so she has to go on like this quest to try and do these things that are meant to pull her out of her shell because she's a little shy and to give her experiences. And so I would give this 5 out of 5 for summer vibes. It takes place during the summer, and it's like this big adventurous summer that she's having. And I have not read any more Morgan Matson, but the majority of her books take place during summer and are very much summer reads, and I own literally so many. So these are some of her other ones that I know take place during the summer. So I have Save the Date, The Unexpected Everything, and Amy and Roger's Epic Detour. So I would also recommend these as well, even though I haven't personally read them. And the last one that I'm going to recommend for this category is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. There's also a movie of this one, actually for the whole trilogy, and this one again does not take place in the summer, so I would give it 4 out of 5 for summer vibes. But this does, I know, take place partially in the spring, and I feel like this is more like a spring than a summer read, if that makes sense. It just feels very light and airy and fun. That's why I'm recommending it, because I feel like during the spring and summer when we want books that we're just going to fly through, and I feel like that this time, because it's so hot and like the air is so dense, like you want something that's just going to be quick and easy and breezy. So in this book we follow our main character Laura Jean, and she has written these letters that she's never sent to boys that she's had crushes on or have liked before, and then all of a sudden one day her letters get sent out and these boys all receive them, and she kind of has to deal with the repercussions from there. And again, this one especially this first book is so fun, and I really loved it, and I think that you guys would really like it for the spring and summer as well. So the last category that I have is sci-fi / fantasies, and so the first one is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jake Kristoff. This is one of my favorite books of all time, like period, probably like top 10. Like I love the series so much. The second book is actually my favorite of the trilogy, but I really love all 3 of them. And in this we basically follow our main characters Katie and Ezra, and they literally just broke up, and then right after they broke up their planet gets invaded and people are starting to get killed. So this doesn't take place on Earth, it takes place on like a different planet, and so then they get on 2 separate ships and are racing against this other ship of people that invaded their planet that are chasing them to kill them. They're like, we can't have any survivors left, we need to chase down these 2 ships and kill them. And so they're trying to figure out like why they're being invaded, things like that. And this spans the whole series, this mystery, but each book follows a different couple, and this is literally so fun and quick to read. I feel like during the summer a good thing also as well is like a good adventure. Like who doesn't want a nice adventure in the summer? Summer is supposed to be adventurous for us because we're off of school, we can do things, and this one definitely is an adventure. And it looks kind of big, but it is mixed media. So it has files and transcripts, emails, maps even, like pages of journals, and it literally goes by so quick. And I honestly would really recommend physically reading this and listening to the audiobook at the same time. I feel like if you do it that way, that's like the best experience for it, because the audiobook has a lot of sound effects, different voices, and it just really makes the experience way better. So I would definitely recommend pairing the audiobook while physically reading it at the same time. So I would give this a 4 out of 5 for summertime vibes. It doesn't take place necessarily during the summer. They don't really talk about seasons because they're in space, but I feel like that this does have that good adventure element that's good for the spring and summer. The next book that I have is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller, and this is actually a duology, and I recommend both of them for the spring and summer. And in this we follow the daughter of a pirate king, and she is sent on this adventure to get this ancient map from some other pirates, and this is so fun and fast-paced. It does have a romance in it as well, but it's not too overpowering, and I love this book. I would give it 5 out of 5 for summertime spring vibes, because obviously it's like pirates, so they're on the ocean, there's a lot of adventure, and I feel like ocean in general just kind of gives summer and spring vibes because a lot of people go on cruises, they go to the beach, so I would definitely give this one a 5 out of 5 for that. And the last one that I have is an Ember in the Ashes by Saw. But here, this one I'm actually going to give like a 3 out of 5 for summertime vibes. I feel like it's not as fast paced as Illuminae, but it does have a lot of adventure elements. So I feel like this one is another good fantasy for this time of year. It's just not necessarily as summery and spring-like as some of the other ones. In this, we follow our main character, Laya, and she lives with her brother and her grandparents because her sister and her parents were killed because they are part of the resistance, which are basically like the people that are rebelling against the Empire. And this is a Roman-inspired fantasy. And then her grandparents get killed and her brother gets taken. So she tries to go back to the resistance to get them to help her get her brother back. And then she's sent into this school called Blackcliff, which trains masks, which are like the best top assassins of this empire, and they like kill everybody. So she's sent in there to be like a spy, and if she does a good job, then they will get her brother back for her. And in this academy, we find our second character named Elias, and Elias is a mask, and his mom's actually the commander who is the head of the school, and he hates being a mask completely. He literally wants to escape, and they meet, and a lot ensues from there, and it's amazing. Very quick, fast pace. The whole series I really recommend. It flows really well together, but the first book really has a place in my heart, and this actually has like a trials event in it. I really like trials in books where like they have to go through trials. I love that, and yeah, so I would definitely recommend this book. So those are my top 10 recommendations for spring and summertime. I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye everybody.